Hi there. For this project, I decided to look at some policies that are presented in the 87th legislature this year. And this is my analysis of 10 different bills that are being introduced this year. So this project is basically divided into 4 different sections. I will be talking about the Texas legislature and then going over how a bill becomes a law. I will then look at 10 different educational bills that are introduced into the legislature this year, and in the end, I will reflect on my learning experience. The first thing we'll look at is the Texas legislature and what does it look like. So the legislature looks very similar to our federal system, and we have the House of Representatives and the Senate. The House of Representatives has 150 members who are selected to a 2-year term. Currently, there are 83 Republicans and 67 Democrats in the House, and the Speaker of the House is elected. It's an elected position, and currently our House Speaker is Dade Phelan. The Senate consists of 31 members, and they are selected for a 4-year term. Currently, we have 31 Republicans and 13 Democrats, and then they are led by Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. The Texas legislature is in session every odd year, so that is why it is currently in session, because we are in the year 2021. The session starts on the second Tuesday of January, and it lasts for about 140 days. Another aspect of this project was to look at the Texas Democratic Party and Republican Party platforms and kind of look at and analyze what their stance is as far as education is concerned. And this is not an extensive list, but some of the key factors, for example, for the Democratic Party, are that they are not in favor of school choice. They prohibit public funding of charter schools. They believe a lot in culturally responsive and relevant curriculum. There is a focus on, positive behaviors and restoration, and they believe in public kindergarten for all learners. Whereas if you look at the Republican Party platform, they are in favor of parents having control over education. There was a lot of information about the desire for diverse and racial ethnic groups to assimilate, and the most prominent one that I thought was that Texas legislature, they want the Texas legislature to pass a statute that allows license to carry. I thought that was kind of interesting. So yes, you can go on their website to get a better idea of what their stance is on various issues, especially education. In this section, I will talk about how a bill becomes a law. The process that the legislature goes through regarding how a bill becomes a law is similar to our federal system. If an idea is presented, if a bill is presented in the House of Representatives, it goes to a committee, and then after that discussion, it goes to the calendar, and it's up for debates. Once it passes the House, it goes into the Senate, and they follow the same process until it is passed in the Senate. And then after that, it goes to the governor's table for it to be signed. The governor has three choices. He can either sign the bill into law, allow the bill to become law without his signature, or veto the bill. A veto can be overridden if the bill received 2/3 of the vote in House and in Senate. And the same can happen if a bill starts in the Senate. It goes through the whole process and then passes over to the House and then goes to the governor's table. And now I will talk about 10 education bills that were introduced in this year's legislative session to be discussed, debated, and possibly made into law. House Bill 434, commonly referred to as the Fine Arts Bill. This bill gives learners a choice to select either fine arts or career and technical education. And there is a fear that the courses related to fine arts will be lost because most schools will opt for career and technical education, whereas research has said that learners from low social economic backgrounds, or even learners that have behavioral problems, they enjoy and perform well when they are pushed in the field of fine arts. House Bill 812 is all about assessment. I thought this bill was very timely because I read it right when we had a little problem with our STAR testing the first day of fourth grade writing. This bill is related to the use of interim testing, adaptive growth-based assessment instruments for certain required assessments for public school students. It talks a lot about having interim assessments throughout the year and averaging them or aggregating them for a summative towards the end of the year. House Bill 1468 is about remote learning. As I record this, I have found out that this bill has passed the House, and it is related to local remote learning program offered by public schools. It is geared for 3rd through 12th grade learners, and the learning format is supposed to be synchronous. House Bill 38 is about discrimination based on hair texture. At first, when I looked up this bill, I thought it was kind of small, but as I researched, I found out how monumental its importance is as far as social, emotional well-being is concerned. During the research, I came across the video of the New Jersey wrestler Andrew Johnson, who was forced to cut his hair publicly in order to wrestle because he did not want to forfeit the match. And as a result, there was an act that was passed in California called the Crown Act. And there were about 25 states that did not support that act. So this year, this bill is introduced. And even in Texas, we've had a case where a learner called DeAndre Arnold was not allowed to graduate because of his hair texture. And this bill is related to discrimination on the basis of hair texture or protective hairstyle associated with race. House Bill 62 proposes alternatives to suspensions in schools. This bill is related to the use of disciplinary alternatives to suspension by a school district and the creation of a restorative justice coordinating council. House Bill 153 is about introducing culturally inclusive curriculum. This bill is related to the inclusion of instruction regarding culturally inclusive curriculum, reflecting the cultural, linguistic, and religious diversity of our society. House Bill 771 is about teaching learners about bullying and cyberbullying. This bill is related to the inclusion of instruction about bullying and cyberbullying in the required curriculum for public school students. House Bill 97 is about admission in charter schools. This bill is about admission policies for an open enrollment charter school where they should have to follow the same regulations and procedures that public schools have to follow. Learners should not be denied enrollment based on discipline or other academic concerns. House Bill 108 is about suspensions and expulsions. This bill is related to the suspension and expulsion practices in open enrollment charter schools. Through research of this article, I found out that there are some charter schools that are no excuse charter schools, and they sometimes suspend or expel students for minor infractions that public schools would never be allowed to. Senate Bill 37 is about universal pre-kindergarten. This Senate bill is related to providing free full-day pre-kindergarten for learners that are 4 years old. And this was also mentioned in President Biden's speech to Congress. I found this project to be very, very interesting because I felt like I learned so much about what is up for discussion, and some things that we take for granted are really not part of our education system. After completing this project, I've come to realize that our teacher voice is very important. We should not just be complaining about issues that we face in our education system, but feel very comfortable making phone calls and reaching out to our representatives to voice our concerns. Therefore, I feel like our next steps as educators should be to make sure that we follow the legislative session and look at bills that are related to our field. If we agree or disagree with a certain bill, we need to make sure that we call our representatives, let them know how we feel and why we feel that way. And not only that, but create awareness by sharing our thoughts with our peers. I've decided that I want to do that like in the first 5-10 minutes of our staff meetings, just so we can build that confidence in educators that their voice matters and we need to share our thoughts with politicians. And only then can we change the system or improve it.